G'day everybody and welcome to another episode of Automotive Carnage. In today's episode, we're going to dive into a car that is dear to my heart because it's a JDM nugget from the 80s. It's super rare, it's got pop-up headlights. It is the Corolla 2 GP Turbo. G'day everybody, my name's DJ and thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Automotive Carnage. Today we're going to do something a little bit different to the usual rusty Aussie-made awesomeness that we find out in the bush and play with rusty Japanese-made awesomeness that we found sort of in the bush. It was out there anyway. What we have here then is a 1989 Toyota Corolla 2 GP Turbo. Now, I dare you to say that name fast 10 times in a row because I know I have trouble just trying to get it right once. So, what is a 1989 Toyota Corolla 2 GP Turbo, I hear you ask? Well, it is a quintessential 80s Japanese hatchback. It is plastic fantastic, it's got body kit and ground effects that are totally unnecessary but are super cool and rad. It's got a turbocharged 1.5 litre single cam engine, which is turbocharged because it's super cool and rad. It's got awesome bespoke turbo interior with turbo embezzling on the seats, which we'll get to shortly. It has pop-up headlights because why not? It's the 80s in Japan. Pop-up headlights are just awesome and rad. So pretty much, this car is 1980s awesomeness and rad. This vehicle couldn't be further away from what we normally deal with in the way of the Pacer, the Bram, and the other super rusted out Aussie-built cars that we normally deal with. So I want to quickly address that firstly. One, we are still working on the Pacer, which I was hoping to smash up before Christmas, but unfortunately I have to wait for parts that aren't available until February next year. So until then, I'm sorry, we're stuck with dealing with awesome nuggets like this. Secondly, I grew up in New Zealand in the 2000s. We had nothing but Japanese imports, so you know, this is my era right here. I am absolutely loving this. Now, what is wrong with this particular example? Well, it doesn't run. I mean, why will I buy a car that runs properly? And why will I buy a car that has a windscreen? Apparently, that's my new thing. It's buying cars that have smashed out windscreens. Anyway, we have to dive into this vehicle to find out why the awesome little 1.5 litre turbocharged engine doesn't run. Now, the original engine is actually in the boot in pieces. That one, something happened to it. I don't know what. It was then replaced with the engine that was in here that was shipped over from Brisbane. I've actually spoken to the guy who sold this engine to the previous owner. It was sold as a running, working engine. The new owner put it in, apparently blew smoke from the time that he put it in there, got annoyed with it, parked it up, threw a wheel through the windscreen, and then water leaked into the ECU. And now it won't start. And so he decided to pull apart everything under the dash to figure out the wiring. So there's wiring going on, there's mechanical going on, there is just all sorts in this vehicle that we have to dive through and try piece back together because half the engine auxiliaries and everything on the outside of the engine has been pulled apart, so we've got to figure out how all that goes back together. And then find out if we can get this car to even crank. If we can get it to crank by the end of this video, I'll be happy. If we can get it to run on Start You Bastard, mate, that will be the ultimate right there. Anyway, let's go handheld and let's show you guys around a little bit more about what makes this car so special and why I love it so much. Now, the first thing I want to address with this car is those fantastic 80s pop-up headlights. And yes, they do work, but the only thing that I have done to this vehicle is hooked up a battery to it, turned the key on, and made sure that they go up and down, which they do, which is fantastic. So with that out of the way, we can go about repairing the rest of the vehicle. That's all I care about. Make sure the pop-up headlights actually work. Because as you can imagine, a car that only has a total production of 6,000 units and only ever sold in one country, finding parts that are specific to this car is a little bit hard and quite challenging, to be frank. And interesting enough, a lot of the parts aren't available in Japan. We have to go to countries like New Zealand and Puerto Rico and Sri Lanka to get spare parts because that's where they all got imported to. Huge communities over in those countries. Anyway, back to our particular example. As I mentioned before, the window is definitely going to be replaced. There's nothing left there. And let's dive in and see those awesome turbo seats on the front here, which I absolutely love. So I've been through the vacuum cleaner and cleaned up a lot of the broken glass and debris that was sitting in here. Before you could even get in, there was that much junk just lying around in here. Now check out those seats. Aren't they just quirky 80s awesomeness? They've got this blue, almost velour-like material. And it is just, I feel, period correct and just 80s all the way. This is the wiring mess that I was talking about. We got to figure out what on earth is going on under here. There is a lot of cables that have been hacked into the back of ignition barrel here. We did find an aftermarket immobilizer, which now has been chopped out. So we got to double check that those wires are going the right way. Another cool feature about this car is it came factory with a high-low booster switch. So what the boost settings were, I actually don't know. But yeah, you could have low or you could have high, which is really, really cool. Oh, and also too, I think it's this switch, no, one of these cables anyway, connects to the factory electronically controlled suspension, which is just mind-boggling for an 80s car, especially a little hatchback to have. We'll show you more of that when we dive into the engine bay. Coming across here, you know what? I don't know how many Ks are on the clock on this thing. Let's find out. And we have, oh yes, another low example. 166,000 kilometers on the clock. That's awesome. Anything under 200,000 to me is low kilometers when it comes to this vintage. We've got a little boost gauge there, tacho. What's that? Temperatures over there. In the center must be a little digital clock. Right, coming across, we've got CD player. Oh, look, we've got CD as well. What have we got? Beastie Boys. Oh, this guy had a good taste, whoever owned this before us. And we have, what's this here? This is pulled apart. Okay, that's still connected though. There's an HKS. Oh, let's get in there. I can't read it. Oh, that looks like a turbo timer. Okay, so we've got an HKS turbo timer in there. That's awesome. I have no idea what that's meant to be then. To me, that's just more wiring that we have to pull out and figure out what they've hacked into. Alright, into the back seat. It's a mess. There's spider webs everywhere. But nothing too much to report back there. Right, let's get under that engine bay. And there is the all-powerful 1.5 litre 3ETE motor, 12 valve single cam with a tiny little turbocharger hiding down in there, which is about the size of a snail. Now, if you deal with Japanese cars, and especially 80s and 90s Toyota nuggets like this, you'll be familiar with the 4E FTE, which came in the Starlet GT motors. This is the precursor. This is the motor that came out before, which was kind of like the proving ground for that engine. This particular engine only ever came in this model of car. Now, in this series, you had the Corolla 2, which is what we've got here. You had the Tercel, and you had the Corsa. Now, only the Corolla 2 GP Turbo and the Corsa came with pop-up headlight versions and turbocharged versions. So, yeah, just a very rare and unusual vehicle. I love to get these rare and unusual vehicles that are very hard to get parts for. I really need to stop doing that. I just can't handle having something ordinary. So today, all we want to do really is we want to get a battery in here. We want to see what powers up, what burns down, what works, what doesn't work. And let's see if we can get this engine cranking. We'll check the oil and everything like that as well before we go and piece this together. Because if this engine doesn't crank, then really is it worth going any further? Now, I bet there's a lot of you viewers out there who this kind of goes over your head and it's not what you're interested in. But at the end of the day, I'm just a car bloke. We're all just car blokes. And the more cars that we can save and keep on the road or keep around in car shows even, the better I feel. And just saving little forgotten nuggets like this is just what I love to do. So, enough jibber jabber. Let's get a battery into this thing and let's see what powers on. Alrighty then, let us begin. Let's see what life we can get out of this little engine. Now, gosh, it's a mess in here. It's just, we don't need that. We don't need that. We don't need that. We should check the oil. Oh, we don't need that. Alright, let's check the oil in here. Yep, we got some. And it's relatively clean. Hang on, let's get that rag. Guess we do need that. Right, let's double check the oil level first. Make sure there's something in it, and that something there's actually, it's overfill. Okay, so there's too much oil, but, oh gosh, get it in the hole properly. Come on, get in there. There we go. Okay, so that's in. Okay, so we've got oil. Fantastic. Battery. Terminals are a little bit destroyed. So let's see if we can straighten them up a bit. There we go. Okay, that's straightened out. That is our, oh gosh, these terminals are junk. Anyway, let's get our battery in and see what happens. So, positive on first. Like, that is hoary as. Okay, and negative. Oh, we got sparks. Oh, I can hear relays. Hopefully that's on tight enough. Right, so battery's in. I can hear relays. Everything appears to be loose around the rotating assembly areas. Yeah, let's bump a key and see what happens. And by key, I mean this lovely screwdriver that we have here. Look at this. We already have a light on the ring that goes around the ignition switch. We have a door open light on here. Let's see if I can turn this key and hold that camera in place. Oh, the wiper's trying to do something. We got lights on the dash, so that's good. Okay. Oh, the high-low turbo switch lights up. That's cool. That's just kind of flopping. The indicator and light switches are kind of flopping around the breeze. Oh, most importantly though, lights. Oh yeah, pop-up headlights. Awesome. Do they go down? Oh, okay, there we go, they go down. All right, so, does it rotate? Let's see what happens. And we're locked up. Oh, let's make sure it's out of gear. Okay, we're definitely out of gear. Let's try again. Okay, so that's not good. So, okie dokie, we don't have any rotation. It's clicking like it's trying to, which tells me that that motor is most likely seized up. So, let's pull some spark plugs out and see if we can get down into the board, see what it looks like. I got to thinking, and a more appropriate course of action to begin with is to get a socket and a long bar onto our pulley and see if the motor actually wants to rotate by hand. Let's try that, shall we? So, get that on there. That is rotating wonderfully, which tells me we should probably pull the starter motor off and see if if it actually works or not. So I don't think I've got a spare starter motor in all the parts that came with this car. So if we pull that starter motor out, bench test it, and let's see if it can actually engage properly. So let's get into the engine bay and crank that out. Okay, so I've got some unfortunate news. It's great that the engine rotates by hand. That's fantastic. But as you can see, the car's up on the hoist. And I just blew the motor for the hoist. That car ain't coming down anytime soon. Yeah, so please hold while I get the electrician around to come fix my hoist so I can get my car down so we can keep filming. See you in a couple of days, I guess. Damn it! Well, my little hoist dilemma took a little bit longer than a couple of days. Unfortunately, where I live is a little bit of middle of nowhere and services are a little bit hard to get. So trying to find an electrician to come around and fix it has been unsuccessful so far. So we managed to jerry-rig it enough to go up that we could then get the car down. So we'll show you that shortly, which means that we can carry on working on it, but it means we're going to be doing it old school and actually have to crawl underneath the car, which, man, that's irritating. But we've all been it. Sometimes we just gotta go back to doing that. Anyway, where I left you guys off was the starter motor was engaging, but it wasn't engaging. So we've got it here on the table to bench test it, and let's see if this is the problem or something else is the problem. So I've got my little jumper wire here. Better hook up some power to it and grab our jumper. Right, let's make sure that it works. Nothing wrong with that. It pops out, it spins, it does wonderfully, it's pretty strong. I got no issues with that. So, I pulled the spark plugs out of the engine. Let's slap that back in there, turn the key, see what happens. Maybe it just needs to be pulled out. Now, one thing actually I will show you. So, what I want to show you here is that this is one of the bolts that was holding the starter motor in, just a pretty standard bolt. And this was the other one, with 1, 2, and a washer. So, obviously, whoever's been here has used the wrong size bolt and has spaced it out with a couple of big nuts. Yeah, that's interesting. So let's just use that, put it back in and see what happens. Just as I was fitting our starter motor back in, I had a brainwave. I'm like, well, hang on a minute. I actually have 2 engines. I've got that spare engine in the boot that's all in pieces. I wonder if there's a starter motor in the boot. So pop the boot, and sure enough, here is another starter motor. This one is physically bigger than the one that came out of the car, and their diameters on their dimensions are exactly the same where it matters, where it goes into the actual barrel housing up here. The only difference is that this one, the distance between the top of this nose down to the face of the cog is a little bit longer. So I'm going to whack this one in. Bolt spacing is the same. This circumference around here, that's the same. Position of the solenoid is the same. And then also looking online, this one is listed for a 2E engine and a 4E engine, whereas this one's actually listed as a 3E engine. This is coming from a May, the website that you can get a whole bunch of brand new parts for old Toyotas and Nissans and stuff. So I semi-trust their information. But hey, what we've got to lose, let's put this starter motor in and see if that distance makes a difference or not. What we've got to lose. The engine's not turning over anyway on the key. Okay, here's where we're at. Battery's connected, there's no fires or funny smells, so that's always a good sign. Spark plugs have been pulled out, just so that we don't blow anything there, or just let it free run a bit easier. We have the older, larger starter motor in there. It's got the slightly different variation. That's the one that we found in the boot. So now with our key, by key I mean screwdriver, let us see what happens when we try to turn it over this time. So remember last time it would just go kadunk and jam. All right, ready? Hey! There we go. Okay, so we have rotation, which is fantastic. Sounds relatively healthy, which is good. What I noticed too is that if I turned it all the way, that's when you could hear it jamming up. Whereas if I just gave it a little bit, just turning over that starter, that kaduk, that's when it would rotate if we hold it there. So that's fantastic news. Now we can move on to checking, do we have fuel and do we have spark? Fun times. All right, everyone, as you can see, we have got a change of location here to somewhere that's got a few nicer cars than what we're used to seeing on the channel. But we're down here at a new spot because unfortunately, the little Corolla 2 defeated me. We had to go for a stage here where we had to cull off a lot of the vehicles in the fleet, and the Corolla 2 ended up on the chopping block and was sold on to a wonderful bloke here who we'll introduce you to soon, who has spent some time on it, and we're actually here now for the first startup. So startup / make sure the fuel pump works. So let's go over to the vehicle now and see what's changed since we've sold it. So for now, we'll just ignore the fantastic R33 and the other turbo starlet. And here is the GP202. And this here is Ronan. G'day, mate. Say hello.
How are you? How's it going?
Fantastic. So Ronan has the pleasure of buying this vehicle off me. Pleasure? I'm not too sure if that's the right word, but he has gone ahead and dropped the fuel tank, given a good Dulux rebuild, put a new Walbro 255 pump in there. And so now we've just finished hooking it all up, putting it in. We're going to see if it turns over and we actually get fuel cranking through there. Now, for me, it's been a couple of months, but you will have just seen that this vehicle does turn over, it does crank, but we could never get the fuel pump to work. So now, with a brand new fuel pump, let's have a look and listen and see what happens. So yeah, Ryan's just going to chuck on the jump pack there. So what have you done to this thing so far?
Like, we were just tracing wires, trying to find some things, replace some leads, and just found a couple of earths that we found were loose and stuff.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like that now, and yeah, I spoke to a buddy back in Ireland who was big into the wiring, and it's his bread and butter.
Yep.
And he was saying that, yeah, because there was no engine management light coming up, that he reckoned it was the ECU.
Yep.
I'm gonna shimmy past you there, sorry.
No, you're right.
And if you want to have a look and see if Saddington's going to get into that,
Yep, so yes, I'll get down here.
we'll that should tell us. But yeah, he said because there was no engine management light, that's a sign the ECU was dead.
Yep.
And sure, yeah, I put the one in from the turbo starlet.
All right,
It worked, but
Here we
so
go.
now
We'll
we're
give
gonna
this a
turn it
go.
on.
All right, I'm watching the bottle down here.
Anything?
Nothing. I can't even hit. Oh, yep, we got fuel. Sweet.
Happy days.
There you go.
So we
Excellent. Heard it straight away too once you started cranking it.
yeah, I'm going to plumb it up there now, so I just have to attach those lines below. I have a new fuel filter to go on up here as well.
Yep, so yes.
And yeah.
Yeah, excellent. So as I was told from the very beginning of this car, it turns out at the end of the day it was the ECU that was fried. So yes, Ronan was just saying, he grabbed the ECU out of his turbo starter there, which is roughly the same generation. And that got to cough and splutter with a bit of fuel down his throat. So yeah, now we've managed to find a Corolla 2 ECU, thanks to Bill over in Brisbane. Thank you very much, mate, for wrecking those cars. And yeah, now with that in there, we've now got fuel in our little bottle line. We'll tighten that up, and I'll stop talking and actually get some work done, because now I just feel like I'm in the way. Okay, here we go. We've got fuel line attached by the tank. We've got a brand new fuel filter in there. That's all tightened up, ready to go. Fresh battery pack, so there's no reason why that this shouldn't run. Fingers crossed. Ronan, when you're ready, have the key. I can hear pressure. Oh, hang on, turn it off. We've got a leaking injector.
All right.
It's pissing out a number 2.
Bollocks.
Like hard. Like it was a bloody tsunami out of there.
All right, yeah.
And that radiator's not done up.
Good.
It's leaking out the overflow.
Right, I see what you mean now about the injector.
That just looks like an O-ring problem.
Yeah. Small problems.
I don't know why that's already done up tight, so not sure why that's pissing out.
It might just be over. I think it might just be excess. Oh no,
Yeah.
it actually is leaking quite a bit. Anyway, it's a future me problem.
Okay.
I'll whip this out and see what happens.
Okay, so yeah, we'll pull the fuel rail out?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, we'll pull that rail out and then see what it looks like. Hopefully it's just an O-ring. Do we have O-rings?
I have other injectors there, I'm sure, that I brought up.
Well, there we go. That's even better. One injectors.
I don't know if I don't know what the difference is in the injectors. Like
Okay.
what CC's the Starlet is compared to this, but
Yeah, true. It shouldn't be too much different, being 1.5,
shouldn't be
1.3,
like-
so. Okay. Anyway, we'll get that pulled out and then we'll bring it back when we're ready to go again. So yeah, a bit of a bittersweet ending. The injectors, nice little Denso 308cc injectors. All the rubbers are dry, they've turned to plastic and they're just hard and brittle, so it's just leaking fuel out between the rail and the injectors, which is unfortunate. And being a Saturday, there's nowhere open that we can go get them cleaned at the moment. But Ronan does have a set for a 2E engine, which is a slightly smaller 1.3 litre. They're only a 270cc injector, but they are the same design, so they will fit in there and they should be enough to get this car idling. However, we have to move on to other events that we've got going on today, so we're going to leave this video here. It is sad to see the Corolla 2 gone, but it is fantastic to see the progress that Ronan has done to this car, stripping out that fuel system, fixing up all that wiring that just absolutely done my head in. Wiring is definitely not my forte, as many car guys will say. And so to see it in this state where we've got fuel to the rail and it wants it, the car needs the fuel. It's really, really cool. So hopefully he'll get it running tomorrow, and yeah, we might ask for a sneaky clip and chuck it at the end of this video. Anyway, that's all. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Automotive Carnage. Something a little bit different, something that we don't normally deal with, and I appreciate you all joining in. Thank you very much. Catch you later.